All right, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. All right, I, Mayor Matt Girding, called the January 21st, 2025 City Council meeting for the City of Somersworth to order. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Pepin?
Yep.
Vincent?
Excused.
Gibson?
Here.
Parity Catanzaro? Here. Michaud?
Yeah.
Witham?
Here.
Goodwin?
Excused.
Cameron? Yeah. Barry?
Here.
All right, Councilor Witham will lead the council in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the recognition of our Indigenous people, our Native Ancestral Americans. This meeting takes place on Indokina, which is the unceded traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanaki peoples, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land, waterways, living beings, and the Alnabuk, the people who have stewarded Indokina throughout the generations. Next is item 4, which is scheduled public hearings. We have none this evening. Item 5 is comments by visitors. Somersworth City Council and Mayor's Office welcome all visitors and encourage you to voice your opinions and views at council meetings. In accordance with Council Rules 7-C, a time limit of 5 minutes per person shall be in effect unless the council wishes to suspend the rules. Speakers shall not enter into a debate with any persons, the mayor, city council members, city manager, or department heads. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? Anyone who wishes to speak? I saw a hand, Wayne. I'm just kidding. All right, thank you. We will move on to item 6. Item 6 on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. Chair will obtain a motion to approve the consent calendar, which includes the minutes of the City Council meeting held on January 6, 2025. Do I have a motion? Councilor Witham.
Move for the adoption of the consent calendar.
Councilor Witham moves so the consent calendar be adopted as presented, seconded by Councilor Pepin. Question for the council is the adoption of the consent calendar. If you're in favor of the motion, you'll state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Ayes have it. Consent calendar is adopted. Item 7 on the agenda is comments by city councilors. Do we have any comments by city councilors this evening? Seeing none. Item 8 is communications. We have none. Item 9 is presentations of petitions and disposal thereof by reference or otherwise. We have none. Which brings us to item 10, which is the mayor's report. First up, I would like to make the community and the city council aware that I've reached out to the chair of the Somersworth School Board, and we are looking to schedule our annual joint budget meeting and budget workshop between the city council and the school board prior to our next city council meeting, which is February 3rd, 2025. We're looking for 6 p.m. that evening. Again, this is like we normally do, opportunity for the school board to bring forward the budget that they are currently discussing and will then submit to us in March. And they will, again, be looking for ideas from the council about our own budgetary priorities, how much we are willing, to move on certain items. And it's a good opportunity for us to hear from them about their priorities, what they are looking to submit in their budget, what the total amount might be close to or look like. And so I'm hopeful that we can get everyone to attend with an approximate idea of how much you're willing to spend on the school portion. Certainly a lot still will need to go into it after that, but it's, again, a great opportunity to do some crosstalk between the two bodies so that we all kind of have some general understanding between both of us going into budget season and before they officially pass their version of their school budget and send it to us. So again, February 3rd, 2025, 6 p.m. is what we're looking for right now. And if you do have questions in advance that will go, to our finance director, or you want something directed to me or the city manager, please send those prior, and we can get numbers and things to you in advance of that meeting, so we're not trying to pull things out of thin air. Just want to make that known. Also tonight, as promised, at our last meeting, I will be presenting to the council for your council approval at our next meeting 5 candidates to fill the expired positions on the Ethics Commission. Each candidate brings immense expertise and years of community involvement that I think will make all of them ideal candidates for this role. So you probably saw it on the agenda, but it's worth mentioning. We have Maureen Jackman, who served as the former director of Somersworth Youth Connections Program and has previously served on a number of city committees, including like the Arts and Culture Commission, and I believe on the Mayor's Drug Task Force. We have Jessica Paradise, who served as both a school board member and city council member for a number of years. Peter Hode, who's an engaged community member and is the current president of the Somersworth Lions Club. Don Austin, as we all know, served as both chair of the Somersworth School Board and a city council member. And Todd Marsh, who served, again, as a city council member and school board member for years. And also, kind of fun fact he shared with me, was the first chair of the Somersworth Ethics Commission back when it was written into our charter. So he has some experience there as well. So those will be before you tonight for nomination, and hopefully next meeting we can vote on those folks. And lastly, I'm very, very pleased to invite up to our podium here the coaches and members of the Somersworth High School volleyball team, who are our champs this year. So if you'll come up to the podium, stand right there. I have a proclamation that I'm going to make for them this evening in regards to their championship win. So yeah, come on up. All right, so thank you all for being here. I'm going to read our proclamation, then I'll come down and we'll do some photos, and I'll hand out a copy for everyone. I think I have enough, hopefully. So this proclamation is proclaiming that Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, is Somersworth High School Volleyball Day in the city of Somersworth. Whereas during the 2024 volleyball season, the Somersworth High School volleyball team had a perfect undefeated season, going 18-0. And whereas during the playoffs, the team continued their winning streak, going on to win all 22 matches of the season and becoming the NHIAA New Hampshire High School Volleyball Division II state champions on November 9th, 2024, with a 3-1 win over Milford High School. And whereas the team has also been recognized with numerous awards, including senior Sia McKay being named the Division II Player of the Year. Congratulations. And Kylie Pettengill, Paige Demers, and Emily Renians all earning all-state recognition. And whereas the Somersworth High School volleyball coaching staff also received recognition for their outstanding efforts and achievements, with our JV coach, Sarah Wilson, being awarded Coach of the Year. And whereas the hard work and dedication shown by the team and the coaches is a direct representation of our true Hilltopper spirit. Now, therefore, I, Matt Girding, Mayor of the City of Somersworth, New Hampshire, on behalf of the Somersworth City Council, do hereby proclaim that Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, is Somersworth High School Volleyball Day in the City of Somersworth. Congratulations. All right.
Yeah, I can take a photo. Where tomorrow's the volleyball day, do they get the day off from school without?
I know. Where's Steve-O?
They do, he's there.
Full approval.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so you want to say something?
Yeah,
Okay,
please,
thanks.
please.
Um,
We'll do a photo after.
So Mayor Girding, members of the council, I want to thank you very much for all the support we had, not just this year, but over the years. This was obviously a great group of kids. It was an honor to work with them every day. I said this at the school board meeting, you know, having lost in the championship last year the way we did after having an undefeated season, I think the biggest thing that they showed, and the proclamation says it, is that Hilltopper spirit, where they showed that resiliency, and they came back this year and we moved up a division and then still won the championship, and that's a testament to the group of girls standing behind me and the few that couldn't make it tonight as well for prior engagements, as well as my JV coach, Sarah, winning that award. That award was voted on by her peers, none of whom she had a relationship with before this season, because, like I said, we just moved up. So it was this whole season was just a dream for a coach and for an athletic director, and it was amazing run with this group of kids, and they're going to be missed. The seniors will be missed next year, but like we keep saying, like we're hoping to do the same thing next year with the group we have coming back. So thank you very much for this.
You got to kind of get closer. I think I'm supposed to say something. I'm not sure. You're good. Thanks.
Turn around, I think parents will love. Definitely not. I know. And to all of our champions and their family members, you do not have to stay for the rest of our meeting. Do not feel like you have to.
Because
You're welcome.
despite
Thank
my
you.
best efforts, you have school tomorrow.
Valiant attempt.
Yeah. All right. All right, and that concludes my mayor's report. All right, we'll bring us to item 11, which is reports of standing committees. First up is the Finance Committee, Chairman Witham.
Yes, thank you. Finance Committee met last week on January 15th at 5 p.m. here in council chambers. All members were in attendance. First item that we dealt with were engineering proposals for 2 water main replacement projects here in the city. One on Indigo Hill Road, largely in the Brickyard area, and the other one on Old Rochester Road. These had been previously identified by Wright Pierce engineers as water lines in need of replacement. I think for the public's edification, we have done an analysis of all of our water lines. They've all been rated, if you will, looking at failure rates, type of failure, those sorts of things. So it's not haphazard which water lines we want to replace. We're going at this in a very systematic formation. Indigo Hill Road and the Brickyard area, Old Rochester Road are 2 areas where we need to get working on replacement. The first step is the engineering of those 2 pieces of work. The committee reviewed city staff recommendations and recommends awarding the engineering work for these water main replacement projects to Wright Pierce engineers in an amount of $110,000. We did add a $10,000 contingency, so the resolution that will eventually be in front of us will be for an amount not to exceed $120,000 for this engineering work. It's below what was budgeted in the current fiscal year budget for that project, which was just over $200,000. So rather competitive bid, if you will. Next item on our agenda was the replacement of the water main on Main Street from Indigo Hill Road to Nadeau Street. That work will hopefully commence this summer. That work is recommended to be awarded to GVC Construction out of Massachusetts, I believe. Beta Group was the engineering firm that did the engineering for this. They reviewed a number of bids. I think we had 7 bids for this water main replacement project, which is really a pretty high number, very competitive that way. GVC Construction was the lowest bidder for the replacement of that water main at $1,572,417. That does include a bid alternate, which is to repave that section of Main Street curb to curb following the replacement of the water main. If you've driven that section of Main Street, it's in pretty rough shape. We've sort of avoided it on our paving list because we knew this water main replacement project was coming. So that will take care of all of that. So we'll get a bit of road paving out of the project as well. And with contingency, the Finance Committee is moving for an amount not to exceed $1,729,658. That'll be paid for out of the Water Enterprise Fund. And we look to fund that with a bond of 15 years. So you will eventually see a water main replacement project bond for 15 years coming in front of full council as well. Related to this project is the engineering oversight. We do recommend awarding the engineering oversight of this project to Beta Group. It makes sense to have the oversight done by the firm that actually did the engineering work. Their amount for this project was $171,040. We are recommending a small contingency, so that's an amount not to exceed $180,000 for the engineering oversight. So by the time all is said and done, this is just shy of a $2 million project with all the fees attached to it. Next item on our agenda that we reviewed were property tax deeds. I think the great news for everyone is the number of properties that are falling into a category where the city would be seeking to take the tax deed for failure to pay taxes has dwindled to a very small amount. A number of years ago, it was 3 or 4 pages long, and now it's far less than 1 page. This is an automatic process that occurs, and typically when property owners are informed that they are moving into this process for the taking of the tax deed, they often come to City Hall and either make payment or, in many cases, work with staff here at City Hall to establish a payment plan. So most of these issues resolve themselves, which is great because the city is not interested in taking properties. That's not our business, right? And we want people to stay in their homes. And by and large, that occurs. Through council action, though, we do have to identify any properties that we do not want to move forward with taking the tax deed. Most typically, these are properties that have some sort of environmental contamination or suspected environmental contamination. We don't want to own that burden unless we have a plan to own that burden. The properties in question now are largely around Wexford Lane and a small section off of Blackwater Road in the vicinity of Wexford Lane. It's believed that there is different things buried in the ground there that we're not quite sure what they are, and because of that uncertainty, we do not want to take those tax deeds. This seems to be an annual rite of passage with these properties where we don't want to take these deeds. It's been ongoing for many, many years now. So there'll be a resolution with regard to that coming forward. Under reporting, the finance director, Scott Smith, said that the budget looks okay as of right now. We are watching police and fire department overtime budgets. We have a firefighter that's on deployment. So every time that firefighter shift comes up, there's overtime to replace that. It would be impossible for the fire chief to anticipate that sort of deployment, so it creates some budget struggles from an overtime perspective. And the police department overtime budget has largely been driven by the fact that we've been in a fortunate situation to acquire new officers, but those officers had to go to the academy and now are in a 16-week field training program. So although you might see them on the street and they're in uniform, they're +1. We have to add an officer with them all of the time until they get fully trained. So that creates some stresses on that side of the police department budget. Let's see here. Under miscellaneous, we had an update from the Public Works Director with regard to proposals for the replacement of the sidewalk on High Street between West High and South Street. I'll call it on the westerly side of the street. That went out to bid and we had no bidders. It's anticipated to be approximately $1 million project and there were no bidders. City staff has reached out to firms that would typically bid, tried to get some information from them. And what we've decided to do is to peel out that repaving of High Street from our road resurfacing proposal bid, which is out to bid now. Those bids are due back by the end of the month. And retweak the sidewalk construction bid document to also include that paving of that section of High Street. That'll make it a more robust project, certainly more valuable, and we think with that approach, we will get bidders to bid on the sidewalk along with the road. So just a different way of approaching it. The bid for the sidewalk and road work is not yet out, should be out sometime soon. City staff had to rework that bid document to include that road paving portion. Councilor Berry made an inquiry about the number of water main breaks that we've seen in the city this year. Public Works Director talked about the stressors of the season, the freeze-thaw cycles that we were seeing. Those extremes are not good for water lines. Also talked about the age of some of the infrastructure, which fed nicely into the conversation about the water main replacement projects that we have going on. So it seemed to dovetail well. City manager brought forward a proposal to change Chapter 12 of city ordinances with regard to waivers from the winter moratorium on excavation. The idea is just to give that authority to the city manager to make it a lot more flexible instead of waiting weeks to come before council. So we support moving forward with that. And lastly, there is a resolution in front of us tonight, Resolution 3225. I might respectfully request that we have a second reading on that tonight, which speaks to the city's responsibility to comply with the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant that was put in place back in the 1970s for the construction of St. Laurent Park. As we all know, we've closed St. Laurent Park, sort of at the bequest of the EPA. The state has determined that we use grant monies to build the park. And when you use grant monies to build the park, if you decommission it, put it out of service, even though we did by action, but really through the order of the EPA, we now have to create that park somewhere else, or at least some of those park elements. This resolution speaks to our promise, if you will, to do that. And it should help us to move forward with the development of the solar field on that project. There's been a lot of back and forth between all of the attorneys involved in this. It's rather complicated. I'll spare everyone the pain and suffering just to say that this resolution is the next important step in that process. Lastly, city manager reported that the city's contracting assessment firm, Cochrane Consulting Associates, which we've used for many, many years now, is terminating their operation as of March of this year. Fact of the matter is there are not many contract assessing firms out there, and Cochrane provides these services for many, many communities here in the state, so it's going to send a lot of people scrambling. Not quite sure where we're headed with this, but in all likelihood, it's probably likely that we'll have to bring assessing services in-house with a professional position in-house versus a contracted service. So more to come on that. We're still not quite sure where it's all going to go, but that was sort of late breaking news prior to the meeting. Sorry for the lengthy report, but a lot going on.
No problem. Thank you. Next is Government Operations Committee, Chairman Michaud.
Thank you, Your Honor. Governor Ops meeting, we met on January 14th, 2025 here at Executive Council chambers over there at 4 p.m. All members were in attendance. First, we approved the meeting minutes from the November 13th, 2024 meeting. The second, we discussed the feedback from city councilors that we had back on the meeting on December 9th, 2024. And we discussed that the petition that was quite a topic, I might say. I once again want to thank all councilors for your input. I deeply appreciate it. And after we discussed that, Councilor Goodwin mentioned that the petition request of 7-day notice seems a little too much and suggested possibly a 48-hour time frame. What he's actually looking for is the agenda, not just the meeting, time, date, and all that. He actually wants the agenda posted 24 hours. It doesn't require us to put a 24-hour notice on the agenda, but we want to put it on there like at 48 hours. But there'll be more coming to that eventually. And so Mr. Brooks requested to speak to us on the concern on his petition, and he said looking for something similar, for us to implement something similar to the way that people sign up for the e-alerts and from the city council, well, the city staff. And Mr. Belmore spoke up and mentioned that he's fearing that overusing the e-alert could potentially cause a resident to miss seeing an emergency alert itself. So we don't really want to overuse that. So the community has requested the city staff to look into technology that could provide the way for a text or an email notification that the city residents could sign up for. My concern is, does the city already have the software in the house already that we could actually utilize, or is it something that we're going to need to invest in? And if we have to invest in it, how much is the new software going to cost? Also, is it easy to use and maintain for city staff? What the committee don't want to do is add more work to the city staff than we already got. So it's something that's easy to do. We'll look further into that. So we also discussed possibly amending council rules to include a time frame of a 48-hour notice for the agenda. Right now, there is no time frame whatsoever in council rules. So that might be something else that will be coming up eventually. And the meeting adjourned at 4:34 p.m.
Thank you. Next is Economic Development Committee. Our chair is absent tonight, so Vice Chair Mishu, is there a report?
No, we did not meet, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Next is Public Safety Committee, Chairman Pepin.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a public safety meeting held here at the City Council Chambers on January 15th at 4:30. All members except one was present. First thing on the agenda was adopting the minutes of October 1st, 2024, passed 3-0. The second thing that we had is City Ordinance, Chapter 13, Police Offense, Section 4, Dogs. Basically, the mayor brought this to our committee to review and whatever, and Chief Macklin dived right into it. So he gave us a report basically saying that the dog laws are governed by a New Hampshire state law, RSA 466. He reviewed that, and it's also under our Chapter 13 law on our city charter. So he did review Dover's laws, Rochester's, Portsmouth's, and Laconia's. He did have some suggestions on clarification on some of the dog at large section of it. So there's been some amendments, kind of like they're going to be proposed in the city ordinance coming probably next meeting to us to see if we would be under control of it. What brought this out is that we had a couple of people from Ward 4 residents that a dog across the street came across and attacked their dog and is constantly out of their yard and whatever. And basically what that any person that has a dog has to have some type of control on it. You don't have to have a leash on it, but you have to be under verbal control, or you have to have control over it if it's not on your property. So that's the basic of it. And the chief went into detail that, there's all kinds of dogs out there. There's hunting dogs that run out through the woods and whatever, so it's kind of hard to have a law that fit everybody under leash. If the dog is on its private property, it doesn't have to be fenced in or anything else like that. The people that were there, the city manager gave them a copy of the ordinance, give them a copy of the changes and everything, and if they want to be present, they were asked to be present or whatever, if they weren't in compliance with what we were presenting. We went back into public safety updates. The police chief says that they have 3 openings right now. The five that just finished the police academy are on field training, and hopefully they'll be done at the end of February. Hopefully they'll be on their own. so they'll be cut-free. They're constantly looking for recruits, and they're doing testing constantly to try to fill in the 3 positions. Also, he gave us a report that they just hired a part-time dispatcher, which is, I believe, started a couple nights ago. So that hopefully that will start taking up some of the overtime slack that some of these dispatchers are going through right now, simply because they've had one that's been injured for quite a while right now, and he's expected to be out for a couple more months. So hopefully he'll be back up to help take care of that. The chief just give us an update on the police social worker grant that was submitted. They did not receive the grant, but the state has agreed to keep funding that grant to the end of the for another year, and the grant will be submitted again next year. It's just that we weren't eligible. There wasn't enough. We just didn't receive it. So. And also, we haven't received any update on the grant for the portable radios. Under the fire department, Chief Moore gave us an update, basically that they're full staffed. The only position that they're filling in right now is for the one that's been deployed right now. So hopefully he'll be back at the end of March, fill that position in. The high grant, which was the money that was for the training tower that got converted into training equipment, most of that gear is in. The only thing that's just went out to bid was the confined space equipment. That should be in the near future. Also, Chief Moore gave us an update that the city managers asked him to form a committee of 6 people to look into specs and of a new aerial platform. Basically what they'll be doing is they'll be looking at the different manufacturers, looking at what would work in our community and what wouldn't work, and going to see what works in other departments and stuff like that. So before we start, so we know what we're looking for when we start going out to bids for that. We had a report from Chris Hogan, which is in charge of Stewart Ambulance. The calls in 2024, 788 EMS response, 1,223 transports to the hospital. The month of December is one of their busiest months that they've had. They had 185 calls, 130 transports. And he also wanted to make sure that we knew that Stewart Ambulance has been a very good partner for us, the city of Somersworth. They could participate in the senior picnics as well as school safety, emergency management plan, the Christmas parade, shop with cops, coffee with cops, and they're very, very active in our community. And also, he wanted us to know that they just updated all their health monitoring machines, the defibs in their ambulances. So they're the state-of-the-art right now. So hopefully that they will be right up to par as far as their equipment. We had a brief discussion, basically about drug overdoses and health care, just in a brief discussion, and we adjourned at 5:04.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next is Public Works and the Environment Committee, Chairman Witham.
No report.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Recreation Committee, Chairwoman Cameron. All right, thank you. That brings us to item 12, which is reports of special committees. Are there any reports of special committees this evening? Yes, Councilor Berry.
The Historic District Advisory Committee did meet. We had a very, very lengthy conversation and had a representative from our State Historic Preservation Office to help talk about some of the goals that we're looking to do with this committee. I will be coming out with those long-term, short-term goals for the next discussion at the committee level. But one of the notes from her, Brandy at the SHPO, was how much she loved that how much desire and willingness to work on this was out there, because that doesn't always happen with a lot of communities. I also have a quick report on the Lampley Regional Cooperative did meet as well. They passed the budget that was set forth. They have a couple of questions that I will be bringing to our city manager around the lease and the permits. So that will be coming forward.
Thank you. Other reports of special committees? Yes, Councilor Witham.
Suppose someone should report on your special committee, the Mayor's Housing Task Force.
I was planning if no one else did, but
So,
thank you.
I'll pick it up real quick. We met last week. It was really a great meeting, good, robust discussion on identifying some, I guess, non-traditional zones for multifamily housing, predominantly the High Street RC district and the CI district are along Route 108. We had a discussion about what that could look like, the name of the district, available lots, current building inventory, those sorts of things, and, discussed whether or not, housing could live in harmony with industrial uses or business uses. No action was taken, but more work to be done there, but just a real engaging conversation. If you want to ad-lib on it, feel free.
Appreciate it. No, I think that captured it. One update was, that I think we needed to add was that there was a previous kind of approval of some ADU language changes that we had come to agreement with the planning board about, what was sent to our city lawyer before it was actually about to come to us as a council for approval, and the lawyer caught something actually in our old ADU ordinance that needed to be updated before it came to us. So the committee approved that change. It will go back to planning. We'll see it after that. But otherwise, yeah, appreciate that. Any other reports of special committees? All right, seeing none, I will turn it over to the city manager to deliver his manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of council, Congress, members of council. The following comments were included in my written report to council for this meeting this evening. I'll jump first on unfinished business resolution 2925, authorizing the manager to sign an application with the New Hampshire DOT for the water line extension being proposed on Route 108 for the company that's looking to open and build a new pickleball facility. As reported out last time, the Public Works and Environment Committee voted to support this extension. The site plan has been approved by the planning board, and if approved, once the project is completed, City Council should take a vote to accept the extension as now city infrastructure. So there'll be another action item required once it's built. Under new business, ordinance 1423, regarding amending Chapter 12, Streets and Sidewalks, excavate, obstruct, or encumber. In regards to the work schedule and the winter moratorium, I provided you a red line version of the ordinance section showing the proposed changes. Again, as mentioned by the committee chair, this provides the city manager the same waiver authority council approved a couple of months ago in regards to the city's noise ordinance. As usual, I recommend a public hearing at the next regular council meeting of February 3rd.
Yep, without objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next is Resolution 3225, a vote by the council to reaffirm the city's decommissioning of the use of the landfill site for public recreational purposes and to acknowledge the city's sole responsibility to comply with the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant conversion requirements, and to further authorize Amoresco to move forward with the solar facility being constructed at the site. Once the realization that this parcel received this type of grant funding, with the restriction to keep it as a park in perpetuity, that stalled Amoresco's moving forward with the project in regards to what their liability was in regards to this conversion process, should they build on the site. And in order to secure proper financing and to be legally satisfied, I worked with our city attorney and Amoresco's city attorney to come up with this resolution that's before you this evening. Since August 12th, quite frankly, after we had the solar array groundbreaking ceremony, and it was in the newspaper, the State Parks Division contacted the city unbeknownst to us at the time. We weren't aware that we had this grant. It was back in the 70s. There was no requirement to place any deed restriction at the Registry of Deeds. So when Amoresco did their due diligence, they weren't aware of this restriction. As it turns out now, the state has changed their rules and you are required. And we recently did complete another LWCF grant program, and we had to record that restriction at the registry. So moving forward, there'll be some sort of safeguard in regards to whether or not property such as this under the grant requirement can be reutilized for any other purpose other than recreational. The next resolution, 3325, as mentioned by the Finance Committee Chair, they voted to support this resolution regarding not accepting certain tax collector deeds. Again, I think you pointed out there's not much for me to add other than just underscoring the fact that the city is required, the tax collector is required to accept deeds at a certain point in time. So the governing body of a community, and the council being that governing body, has to actually take an affirmative vote not to accept. Otherwise, the tax collector is instructed by state law to automatically accept it. So, and again, the city does work. I work hand in glove with Scott Smith, our finance director, in trying to work with people to stay in their homes and set out payment plans and whatnot to try to keep them there. And sometimes it drags on for months and months and months and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if they're able to stay there, it's a win-win for the city and for our residents. I did provide you a copy under informational items of the estimated tax cap impact for the FY 2025-2026 budget that Director Smith prepared. And it is the final estimate. Back a few months back in December, Scott provided a draft estimate, and as it turns out, once the CPI was year over year was finally published, he went back and did the analysis, and this does provide a slight positive change in the allowable increase on the tax cap limitation. So it worked better for us, if you will, both for the city and the school side. As mentioned by the finance chair, contracting and assessing services, Corcoran Consulting is folding their tents in regards to providing the service to this community. They've been with us for approximately 22 years doing this. We used to have a assessing staff, a chief assessor, and Director Smith and I are working on a transition plan to continue city's required assessing services, and we'll report back to the proper committees in the full council in regards to that. But moving forward, we hope to provide the finance committee at their meeting next week with an initial draft plan, a draft funding plan for the new operational structure of the assessing office. I have reached out to one company that we thought that might be able to provide some service, but they cannot. They're stretched to the max, as reported out before. There's only probably less than a handful of companies that do this. So we will most likely be advertising for chief assessor and trying to figure out a operational structure in regards to how that's funded. But still going out to bid and utilizing a firm when we have to do a reval every 5 years. So we'll be working on that and reporting back. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Brings us to item 13, which is nominations, appointments, and elections. Under nominations, appointments, and elections, in accordance with Council Rule 17 appointments, the following nominees are up for a vote by council this evening. Kevin Dodds for reappointment as a member of the Conservation Commission for a term of 3 years, and Anthony Jones for reappointment as an alternate member to the Zoning Board of Adjustments for a term of 3 years. What are the wishes of the council? Councilor Witham.
Move to approve both nominees.
Councilor Witham moves to approve both nominees, seconded by Councilor Pepin. Motion for the council is to accept Kevin Dodd for reappointment as a member of the Conservation Commission and Anthony Jones for reappointment as an alternate member of the Zoning Board. Discussion. Yes, Councilor Witham.
Yes, thank you. Normally we just breeze through these appointments, but just a quick word on both of these folks. They're both very engaged at their various committees. They are both very articulate, knowledgeable about the subject. We are lucky to have them both putting their hats in to serve on these committees.
Thank you. Other discussion? Okay, seeing none. If you're in favor of the nominees, you'll state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes appear to have it. Ayes have it. Nominees are accepted. Also under nominations, appointments, and elections in accordance with Council Rule 17 appointments, following nominees are being introduced to council this evening. We have George Gilmet for appointment as a member of the Planning Board for a term of 3 years, and we have 5 members of the Ethics Commission for a term of 3 years. We have Maureen Jackman, Jessica Paradise, Peter Hode, Donald Dawson, and Todd Marsh. All appointees will stand in nomination until the next regularly scheduled council meeting. Next is item 14. Which is items that have been laid on the table. We have none. It brings us to items 15, which is our unfinished business. First up, we have Resolution 2825, which is to authorize the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with the State of New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs for a housing opportunity grant through the Invest NH Municipal Planning and Zoning Grant Program to analyze and update the city's land use regulations, which, if approved, would allow the city to utilize a $100,000 grant to make new regulations and analyze and update existing regulations to expand housing opportunities in the city. I'll turn it over to the city clerk for a second reading.
Resolution number 2825, to authorize the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with the State of New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs for a housing opportunity grant through the Invest NH Municipal Planning and Zoning Grant Program to analyze and update the city's land use regulations.
Thank you. Resolution 28-25 having been read a first and now second time is open to further amendment. All right, seeing no amendment being offered, I will look for a motion on Resolution 28-25. Councilor Pepin?
Move for its adoption.
Councilor Pepin moves to the adoption of Resolution 28-25, seconded by Councilor Barry. Motion before the council is on the adoption of Resolution 28-25. Discussion. Seeing none. If you are in favor of the adoption of Resolution 28-25, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Pepin?
Yes.
Vincent?
Yes.
Gibson?
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro?
Yes.
Michaud?
Yes.
Witham?
Yes.
Cameron? Yes. Barry?
Yes.
Resolution 28-25 has been adopted. All right. Chair will recognize the clerk for a second reading now on Resolution 29-25, which was to authorize the city manager to sign an application with the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation for a water main extension on Route 108 for Opaque Melody LLC, which, if approved, would allow the city to expand a 12-inch water main along Route 108 by 410 feet to accommodate a newly approved indoor pickleball court facility. City Clerk.
Resolution number 2925, to authorize the city manager to sign an application with the State of New Hampshire Department of Transportation for a water main extension on Route 108 for Opaque Melody LLC.
Thank you. Resolution 29-25 having been read a first and now second time is open to further amendment. Seeing no amendments, I will look for a motion on Resolution 29-25. Councilor Witham?
Move for its adoption.
Councilor Witham moves to the adoption of Resolution 29-25, seconded by Councilor Cameron. Again, the motion for the council is on the adoption of Resolution 29-25. Is there a discussion? Seeing none. If you're in favor of the adoption of Resolution 29-25, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Witham?
Yes.
Cameron? Yes. Barry?
Yes.
Pepin?
Yes.
Vincent?
Yes.
Gibson?
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro?
Yes.
Michaud?
Yes.
All right, Resolution 29-25 has been adopted. Brings us to item 16 on our agenda, which is new business. We have one ordinance under new business this evening. The chair will recognize the clerk for a first reading on ordinance 14-25, which is to amend Chapter 12, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 12.1, excavate, obstruct, or encumber work schedule. City Clerk.
Ordinance number 1425, to amend Chapter 12, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 12.1, excavate, obstruct, or encumber work schedule, January 21st, 2025. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Somersworth that the ordinances of the City of Somersworth as amended be further amended as follows. Amend Chapter 12, Section 12.1, excavate, obstruct, or encumber, titled Work Schedule, by deleting it in its entirety and replace it with the following. Winter Moratorium Work Schedule. Except for emergencies as may be deemed essential by the Department of Public Works and Utilities, no person, firm, or corporation, or any agent or servant thereof shall excavate, obstruct, or in any way encumber any street, sidewalk, or other city-owned property or right-of-way in the city of Somersworth between the 15th of November and the 15th of April. The Director of Public Works or designee must approve the schedule of work. Scheduling will be such as to not unreasonably interfere with traffic. In excavation events that are not deemed an emergency, a winter moratorium waiver request may be submitted to the city manager for consideration. The city manager is authorized to grant a waiver of this section of the ordinance as deemed to be in the best interests of the city. Waiver requests shall be submitted in writing and shall include the following details, such as applicant's name, proposed work, location and schedule, and applicant's rationale for the need of a waiver. All approved waivers will require a review by the Public Works Director and/or the city engineer, as well as any required permitting, bonding instrument, and insurance. This ordinance shall take effect upon passage. Sponsored by Councilors David A. Witham, Kenneth S. Vincent, Martin Pepin, Paul Goodwin, approved City Attorney.
Thank you. Ordinance 14-25, having been read a first time, will remain in first reading until the next regularly scheduled meeting, at which time we will have a public hearing as well. Brings us to our resolutions under new business. The chair recognizes the clerk for a first reading on resolution 32-25, which is a vote by city council to reaffirm the city's decommissioning of the use of the landfill site for public recreational use purposes, to acknowledge the city's sole responsibility to comply with the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant conversion requirements, and to further authorize Amoresco to proceed with the solar facility use at this site. City clerk.
Resolution number 3225, a vote by City Council to reaffirm the city's decommissioning of the use of the landfill site for public recreational use purposes, to acknowledge the city's sole responsibility to comply with the Land and Water Conservation Fund, LWCF grant conversion requirements, and to further authorize Amoresco to proceed with the solar facility use at this site. January 21st, 2025. Whereas the City of Somersworth, New Hampshire, the city, entered into a ground lease with Blackwater Road Solar LLC, Amoresco, dated June 26, 2023, the ground lease for the purpose of Amoresco constructing, installing, and operating and maintaining a solar facility at the Somersworth Sanitary Landfill, the landfill site. And whereas in 1977, the city entered into a project agreement, with the State of New Hampshire Division of Parks and Recreation, Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, regarding a Land and Water Conservation Fund, LWCF grant, pursuant to which development of certain recreational facilities at the former St. Laurent Park on the landfill site was partially funded by LWCF under the Project 33-00199 Somersworth Community Development. And whereas, in accordance with the project agreement and the LWCF program, any property acquired or developed with LWCF funding assistance must be retained and used for public outdoor recreation in perpetuity. Specifically, any property so acquired and/or developed shall not be wholly or partly converted to any other uses other than public outdoor recreation uses without the approval of NPS pursuant to the LWCF Act 54 U.S.C. Section 200305 F3 and compliance with the conversion requirements outlined in Regulations 36 CFR Section 59.3. And whereas under the project agreement, the city agreed to the post-completion stewardship requirements and the solar facility to be constructed and operated by Amoresco under the ground lease will trigger the conversion process under the LWCF and require the city to comply with the conversion requirements under 36 CFR Section 59.3, the conversion requirements. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Somersworth that the city reaffirms that the landfill site cannot feasibly be used for public outdoor recreation purposes, and the city desires to proceed with the development and construction of the solar facility by Amoresco under the ground lease. The city commits to compliance with the conversion requirements. The city shall be solely responsible for compliance with the conversion requirements and all requirements under the LWCF program related to the landfill site. Amoresco shall have no liability relating to the conversion requirements or any compliance obligation related to the LWCF program, and the LWCF grant restrictions shall not interfere with or adversely impact Amoresco's solar facility use as defined under the ground lease. The city authorizes Amoresco to proceed with the solar facility use. sponsored by Councilors David A. Witham, Martin Pepin, Kenneth S. Vincent, Laura Berry, approved city attorney.
Thank you. Counselor Witham.
Yes, I'd like to move that council rules be suspended for a second reading on the resolution this evening.
All right, Counselor Witham makes a motion to suspend council rules for a second reading on Resolution 32-25, seconded by Counselor Pepin. Again, the question before council is on the suspension of council rules for a second reading on Resolution 32-25. Discussion? Seeing none, if you're in favor of the motion, you'll state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying no. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes appear to have it. Ayes have it, and the motion passes. Chair recognizes the clerk for a second reading on Resolution 32-25.
Resolution number 3225, to vote by City Council to reaffirm the city's decommissioning of the use of the landfill site for public recreational use purposes, to acknowledge the city's sole responsibility to comply with the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant conversion requirements, and to further authorize Amoresco to proceed with the solar facility use at this site.
Thank you. Resolution 32-25, having been read a first and second time, is now open to further amendment. Councilor Parady? Is that right?
Just a small, perhaps friendly amendment. I believe St. Laurent Park may be misspelled in this resolution, so just to check, it's Laurent, I believe. That's how I've seen it spelled in other documents.
Good catch. I think that's definitely a friendly amendment. I wouldn't worry. We'll just have city staff make sure that that's checked before it's official. But thank you. Good catch. Other amendments? All right. Seeing none, the chair will look for a motion on Resolution 32-25. Councilor Witham?
Move for its adoption with any clerical corrections.
Councilor Witham moves for the adoption with the clerical corrections, seconded by Councilor Vincent. Again, a motion before the council is on the adoption of Resolution 32-25. Discussion. Councilor Witham?
Yeah, I just want to thank city staff for working hard with the representatives from Amoresco to get to this stage of an agreement. You know, this site off of Blackwater Road has been nothing but a drain for the city financially. And when I say drain, I'm talking millions and millions of dollars. People wonder where their tax dollars go. A lot of it goes there, and there's nothing to show for it, right? Testing, ground monitoring, dealing with the EPA, all sorts of additional requirements. And just when we think we're going to get some positive thing out of this site, the solar field, yet again we have to deal with yet another drain. This is likely to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to move forward. The good news is, between the lease agreements and pilots and all of that, that there'll at least be some cash flow coming in to offset some of that in time. It just pains me, this whole site. And, you know, the environmental sins of the past were not done out of malice. People did not know then what we know now. And if there was malice, it certainly wasn't on the city's behalf. There are many industrial polluters. The potentially responsible parties were many. It's been narrowed down to two that oversee the project, which is General Electric and the city of Somersworth. But rest assured, there were many other industrial polluters back in the day. One last comment. I always just chuckle at the term Superfund site because there's no super funding coming from this site. It's a super money drain. And I'm just using this opportunity to lament a little bit because I feel better doing it. Thank you.
Thanks. Other discussion? All right. Yeah. Oh, yes, city manager.
Yeah, just for what it's worth, department, it's something we have to do. It's required by state and federal law, so there's nothing to amend. It's more of a, as it stated, it's a reaffirmation so that Amoresco has a level of comfort that they're not going to be dragged into the conversion process. So I thank the council for their consideration on this.
Other discussion? All right, seeing none. If you're in favor of the adoption of Resolution 32-25, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham?
Yes.
Cameron? Yes. Barry?
Yes.
Peppin,
Yes.
Vincent,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro,
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
All right, Resolution 32-25 has been adopted. Thank you. All right, brings us to other resolutions under new business. The chair recognizes the clerk for a first reading on Resolution 33-25, which is to notify the city tax collector that the city council shall not accept a tax deed on properties located on Wexford Lane and Blackwater Road, subject to an unredeemed tax lien. City clerk.
Resolution number 3325, to notify the city tax collector that the city council shall not accept a tax deed on properties located on Wexford Lane and Blackwater Road, subject to an unredeemed tax lien, January 21st, 2025. Whereas RSA 80:76 directs the tax collector after 2 years to execute to the city a deed of the land subject to the real estate tax lien and not redeemed. And whereas the governing body of a municipality may refuse to accept a tax deed on behalf of the municipality because in its judgment, acceptance and ownership of the real estate would subject the municipality to undesirable obligations or liability risks, or for any reason that would be contrary to the public interest. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Somersworth that the city tax collector be notified that for those reasons, the city shall refuse to accept the tax deeds on property located at the following locations: 5 Wexford Lane, 35-12A, 7 Wexford Lane, 35-12B, 30 Blackwater Road, 35-14. Sponsored by Councilors David A. Witham, Martin Pepin, Kenneth S. Vincent, Laura Berry, approved city attorney.
Thank you. Resolution 33-25 having been read a first time will remain in first reading until our next regularly scheduled meeting. All right, that brings us to item 17 on our agenda, which is comments by visitors. Somersworth City Council and Mayor's Office welcome all visitors and encourage you to voice your opinions and views at council meetings. In accordance with Council Rules 7-C, a time limit of 5 minutes per person shall be in effect unless the council wishes to suspend the rules. Speaker shall not enter into a debate with any persons, the mayor, council members, city manager, or department heads. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? Come on up. Please state your name and ward in which you live.
Good evening. My name's Bonnie McNair. I'm in Ward 1. I'm also the Chamber Director for the newly rebranded Somersworth Community Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to invite everyone on council and in the public for our Hilltop Health Alliance Community Conversation to be held at Somersworth High School on Thursday. There have been a number of public notices, but I thought I would take a moment to invite you all personally to come. The topics of conversation are going to be to discuss the committee going forward, what we're going to do, what our goals are, how we're going to involve the community, and also food insecurity is the main topic of conversation, and connecting folks with resources. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, others who wish to speak this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Brings us to item 18 on our agenda, which is closing comments by council members. Councilor Parity Catanzaro, you were supposed to go first last time, but you were out, so I'm going to throw it to you first this evening. Null and void? Is that null and void? What's that? Yeah, I feel like it's fair, right? All right, you are up.
I'll be brief. Everybody keep washing your hands. There's a lot of stuff going around. That's all.
Ain't that the truth? Thank you. Councilor Meisher, you are next.
No comment this evening.
All right, thank you. Councilor Witham.
Yeah, a few quick things. One, shout out to our public works staff. I thought excellent job over the weekend with the snow event that we had. I was surprised when I was reading the monthly department report at how many times they actually went out in December, right? It wasn't for anything sizable, but a bunch of nuisance stuff, right? But it still requires deployment of trucks and equipment. Again, your folks do a great job. Long hours, working the weekends, working nights. I know many of them are, obviously they're getting overtime for that, but most folks today don't want the overtime dollars. They want the time off, so we applaud them for being out there. And just on a couple of FYI things, it was some time ago, I think last summer, spoke about the flagpole light at the PD. It's gone from bad to worse. The only good news is the flag is at half-staff now, so it's closer to the light that a night light in your bathroom is brighter. I don't know if we could get that replaced. It's the front of the PD is just sort of dark and uninviting. The parking lot lights aren't very good. I thought we were supposed to replace them with LEDs back when we did our citywide conversion project, but that hasn't happened, I don't think. So any update on that would be great. Similarly, the fire station lighting is much, much better, but I think the timer is off, Chief. I think it needs to go on earlier. I drove by at like 5:15 last night and nothing was on. It was dark. So just a heads up there. So observation. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to give a shout out to my Don't Trash Somersworth group this past weekend. We'd kind of left it up in the air whether we were going to do January, February, and March, and it wasn't a bad day. Unfortunately, I had to work, and I did change the location at the last minute to Commercial Drive. I did have one new member, too, as well, and I had 4 people, and they collected 15 bags, a shopping cart, and one other thing, I forgot what it was, a mop or something. But anyway, a huge shout out to them for going ahead with what they did for me. And I just wanted to give my condolences to the Kretschmeyer family. The city has lost another fine woman, Connie Kretschmeyer, and she certainly was the Queen of Somersworth, according to what Eric Mumpson said, and I can certainly agree with that. Rest easy, Connie.
Thank you. Councillor Barry?
Just a couple quick comments, hopefully. I've personally witnessed quite a few traffic violations lately. I know that this is a growing issue. I know it's been brought up multiple times. I watched somebody run a red light, no care in the world that they were going through a red light. I myself watched somebody go down a wrong way on a one-way road, not caring. Just please be mindful. Be very, very mindful. I look both ways now before crossing any road. Doesn't matter if it's a one-way or a red light anymore, because it's just happening everywhere, and especially with snow and ice. Just please, please be careful and obey traffic laws, please. My other comment is just that I'm seeing a lot of comments out there, criticisms, complaints. I kind of come from the mindset of don't come with a complaint, come with a plan or solution, because that kind of helps us come up with things that we might not have thought about. So if you do have a complaint, please come with something so we can start building on how to make things better. So just keep that in mind as we're going into tax season, as we're going into budget season. Don't just complain, come with solutions. That's it.
Thank you. All right. Councillor Pepin?
Yes, the only thing I got to say is it's cold out there, and I know people use alternate heat sources every so often, so please be careful with them. I don't need to see anybody lose their lives simply because of carelessness of taking care of the heating, extra heating appliances. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent?
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I want to apologize for being late. But yeah, I was going to comment on Connie also. What an icon she was. You know, Mr. Langelia might have been the principal, but she was really the principal. Yeah, because when you went to the office, she was like, "What are you doing here?" Yeah, my condolences go out to her family, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Councillor Gibson?
No comment.
All right. Thank you. All right. That brings us to item 19, which is future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items to consider? Seeing none, we'll go to item item 20, non-public sessions. We have none. And then last but not least, Councilor Vincent moves that the City Council stand in adjournment until our next regularly scheduled meeting, seconded by Councilor Witham.
How you doing?
All right. Question for the council is adjournment. If you're in favor, please say by saying aye. If you're opposed, say by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we got one nay. We are in adjournment. Thank you.
Dave, I just got that text.